Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this European Marine Board third Thursday Science Webinar. I'm Paula Kellett, one of the Science Officers at EMB, and I'm going to be moderating the session today. So just before we get started, let's go through a few housekeeping rules. There we go. So please make sure your name is clearly entered so that if you ask a question, we know who's asking. If you would like to ask a question during the presentation or the discussion, please use the Q&A function and enter your question there. If you use the chat function, it might get lost. If you need any sort of technical support, please do use the chat function and we'll see if we can help you. And please note the webinar is being recorded, so act accordingly. The webinar will be made available on our YouTube channel and on our website afterwards, so you'll be able to rewatch or share with colleagues at that point. So today's science webinar, as with all our webinars, they really link to some of the work that EMB is involved with. But this work actually links to quite a few of the initiatives we've been involved with over the years. So first of all, the FLORES project, which is where this work is arising, a project that's been running since last January and is running till December, and I'm sure Lefteris will tell you more about that in his presentation. There's also two publications that EMB had on related topics. So one was on marine graduate training back in 2018. And then more recently, we had a document on offshore renewable energy in 2023. So I think it will be good to see what's changed perhaps in terms of what's needed and what is still a recommendation that we made and is going forward to what's still needed in the industry. So that's our interest in this topic. And now I can introduce our speaker. I'm very happy to introduce Lefteris Sdoukopoulos. He is from the Centre for Research and Technology Hellas in Greece. And I will give the floor to him so he can tell you far more about skills intelligence in offshore renewable energy.
Thank you, Paula. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here and joining today's webinar. And a big thank also to the European Marine Board for the kind invitation to present the work that we have been doing in the FLORES project over the past 1.5 years, which I'm very happy to share today. We recently concluded this work, so it's a very good opportunity for us to showcase what we have been doing and also get your comments, your feedback, your views. I guess you can see my screen, right? Good. So I'm Lefteris Sdoukopoulos. I work at the Hellenic Institute on Transport. It's one of the 5 institutes of the Center for Research and Technology Hellas. And I'm heading the department that focuses on assessing the environmental and energy impacts of transport systems with a focus on maritime transport and ports. So I will present today what we did over the over the past year and a half on analyzing skills in the offshore renewable energy sector with the aim to enhance the understanding and the intelligence of the needs that the industry requires for developing the skills of the workforce, but also the needs of the education and training providers on reforming their programs so that they adhere to a very good extent to the industry needs. As it was mentioned, this work was concluded within the framework of the FLORES project. FLORES is an Erasmus Plus project that was initiated at the January of last year and will be concluded at the end of this year. So we have many results of the FLORES project to be published within the coming months. The FLORES project is supporting the Pact for Skills that has been established for the offshore renewable energy sector. It covers all different ORE technologies, solar, waves, wind, tides, currents, and many more. And the aim is to develop dedicated training offers to promote careers in the sector and create a skills observatory a tool that will help, a process that will help to understand what are currently the skill needs in the sector, but also what kind of different trends will be impacting the sector and what will be the implication of those trends on skills development. Just for your reference, for those who are not very aware of that, the Pact for Skills is one of the flagship actions of the European Skills Agenda. It aims to support public and private organizations with performing upskilling and reskilling activities. And it also provides some advice to the members of the Pact on relevant funding instruments that can be utilized in order to boost the skills of their workforce, but also offers a number of partnership opportunities between the members of the Pact. The project, as I said, is supporting the Pact for Skills that has been established for the offshore renewable energy sector. It started January last year. The overall budget is 700,000 euros. We are 15 partners from 8 countries, covering all the different sea benzines in the European context. The key actions that the project includes is to create a large-scale partnership between different players in the sector and develop a set of pilot actions at regional level with the aim to adapt the training materials and needs to the reality of Europe's different sea basins. It aims to stimulate the provision of dedicated training offering reskilling and upskilling opportunities to the current workforce in the sector. The part that we were in charge of is to provide skills intelligence in the sector, so to guide where the actions should focus for addressing the current gaps that exist between skills demand and supply, but also provide some insights on how the education and training programs should be updated in the future so that the changes, that the different trends that will be impacting the sector can be addressed on a timely manner, and the needed qualifications can be provided to the workforce and the new employees entering the sector, and also promote a number of career opportunities within the sector. The ORE Skills Observatory, the part that we were in charge of, and there is also a working group in the Pact for Skills that addresses this Skills Observatory, employed a very straightforward structure. So on the one hand, we wanted to analyze what is the demand currently for skills. On the other, to assess what is the skill supply, so what exact occupational and training programs are being offered in the different EU countries, what qualifications they provide, and what different occupational profiles they address. And by comparing the two, the skills demand and supply, to see what are the gaps today and what are the shortages, and provide a set of targeted recommendations for addressing them. On top of that, we also perform a skills foresight exercise where we want to identify emerging trends and paradigm shifters that will be impacting the sector on the short, medium, and long term, and assess what kind of implications those trends will impose on the skills that will be required by the industry actors in order to support further growth and development in the sector. Before starting our work, we had to set up some reference layers that allowed us to report results in a very structured manner, and also enable us to compare results with some previous work that has been done so as to see what kind of difference we had. So the first reference layer that we set was the offshore renewable energy value chain. So we had some initial work from the previous year that we updated with consultation activities, but also by retrieving relevant information through desk research. And this is the final setting of the value chain that we consider in our analysis. You can see the different phases that are included, but also a number of cross-cutting activities that span through the different phases of the value chain. Then, and taking the order value chain as a reference, as a basis, we identified the corresponding occupational profiles that are engaged in the different processes of each segment of the value chain. For that, we use the ESCO database, so the categorization of the occupational profiles, as these are listed in ESCO. And we identified in total 174 occupational profiles, which corresponds to a hierarchy level 4. So in ESCO, there are different levels of hierarchy, starting from broader groups to groups of occupational profiles. And on the lower level of analysis, we have individual occupational profiles at ESCO level 4 or above level 4 when we have a subsequent categorization. These 174 occupational profiles correspond to 42 groups of occupational profiles, so ESCO level 3 hierarchy. And you can see here a very simple example of how this table was actually structured. Now, very interestingly, when we talked with different industry experts in order to come up with this final list of occupational profiles, we got a number of suggestions that we factor in order to produce this final table. A lot of the suggestions had to do with occupational profiles that were already included in the list. And the way to check that is that in the ESCO database, for each occupation profiles, there is also this tab on alternative labels, so different kind of wording that's been used for the same profile. So we double checked every recommendation that we took so as to not to have a very complete list of the corresponding occupation profiles. And we found also two profiles, the meteorological analyst and maritime spatial planners, that we saw that these are not included currently in the database. So there will be also a proposal from us to the ESCO for including these two occupational profiles in the next update of the database. And here we also suggest on which category these profiles need to be included. Then, once we had the reference layers ready, the next step was to establish a knowledge basis. So we used desk research, but also some stakeholder consultation in order to see what has been published over the last years on information sources addressing the sector with emphasis on skills. And we found quite a few important information sources that we assessed, and we collected some feedback that actually enabled us to establish a very good understanding of where we currently stand on the skills development in the sector. We had web portals, and the Skills of that is a very important tool to consider. It has been developed by CEDEFOP, the European Center for Vocational Training, providing insights, sectoral insights on the skills requirements, covering a lot of different sectors, including sectors of the blue economy. On the other side, we had the marine training platform that bundles a lot of relevant educational and training programs covering different thematic fields. But and it's a very good, it's a single point of retrieving information on what is being offered by the different educational training institutions. We had also a number of key studies and reports from relevant projects such as T-Shore, MATES, but also from a number of industrial organizations. You can see here the Global Wind Organization, the Global Wind Energy Council. They have published over the last year a few very informative reports that within the reports and covering different topics, they also put emphasis on the topic of skills. Articles, but also initiatives. We flag here the Energy Skills Alliance initiative of OPITO. And going through the relevant material, we were able to get input on data analytics, but also insights on job vacancies and skills demand, get a good view of available training programs and what qualifications those provide, the challenges, the gaps, and shortages with regard to skills that the different reports highlighted, an outlook of sectoral developments and implications on skills demand, recommendations that many publications provided for skills development, for upskilling and reskilling, but also pathways that can assist in improving the mismatch between skills supply and demand. Furthermore, within the context of the Wind Europe annual event 2023 that was held in Copenhagen, we organized there a targeted workshop where we aimed first to validate the order value chain that we had built, to validate also the list of occupation profiles, and the industry experts also provide insights on occupational profiles that, according to their view, are in higher demand, and these were divers, technical workers, engineers, service technicians, and welders, but also on the skills and knowledge that they highlighted as more important currently, putting emphasis on a good knowledge of the relevant policy frameworks and any updates this will have, but also on the legal procedures on commercial aspects and marketing processes that are being engaged in the different operations of the value chain. So then we started collecting data for analyzing the skills demand. Besides the desk research that provided us a good starting point, our main method was the online job vacancies analysis. We used the ArcGIS survey tool in order to identify online job vacancies addressing the sector, and we collected for each job vacancy the information that you can see in the bullet points. The process has been guided by the framework that the CEDEFOP has developed about how you can perform an online job vacancies analysis. So we follow the same steps as CEDEFOP has outlined in a relevant publication published a couple of years ago. So overall, we collected 981 online job vacancies over a period from April to October 2023. We used a lot of portals that actually group together a lot of information. You can see here some indicative ones. And we focused on 11 European countries addressing both established but also emerging offshore renewable energy markets. The results that we got, we saw that 5 occupational groups are in highest demand, starting from science and engineering professionals, administrative commercial managers, science and engineering associate professionals, ICT professionals, and business and administration associate professionals, accounting for about 85% of the demand. And then we broke down the data in order to see what occupational profiles are in highest demand. From the 174, we saw that the online job vacancies mostly targeted 39. And here in the slides, you can see the top 10. Project managers rank at the top. And the second most in demand occupational profile is audit technicians. Furthermore, you can see that 5 out of top 10 occupational profiles requested by the industry have to do with engineers of different specialization. And the list concludes with software developers, purchasers, and or plant operators. Now, for those 39 occupational profiles that were found to be in highest demand, we analyzed those 6 thematic areas. So we took the dataset and we tried to see what technical skills and competence were mostly required by the industry: soft skills, knowledge, experience, education and training, and language skills. So in the report, there will be a report that will be published actually at the end of the month, we will invite you to check the full report. You will find for each occupation profiles information on those 6 thematic areas. Now, the findings that we came up with after the analysis. We show that the occupation profiles that are currently in high demand are those that are key to the value chain. Project managers and engineers especially rank at the top. IT skills, at least basic ones, are needed for the large majority of occupational profiles. We show that quality assessment, quality control, and quality health, safety, environment, and environmental-related skills are much in need, and this is valid across many different occupational profiles. The same goes with stakeholder management, which is key for the industry in order to ensure the building of strong and long-lasting working relationships. Soft skills were found to be equally important to the industry compared to hard skills. Communication and collaboration, both internal and external, were requested in all job vacancies that we analyzed, while there was also great demand for adaptivity, problem solving, and candidates being open-minded, detail and results-oriented, as well as self-motivated. Now, with regard to knowledge requirements, we saw diversity on the requests. Most requirements had to do with specific software and technologies, data analysis and visualization, as well as regulations and standards. For example, in many cases, we had requests for knowledge of CAD software, of Atlassian Suites, which is a collaboration platform, but also for ERP software. Now, experience requirements were also diverse, and we saw that 2 to 3 years were mostly required as the minimum threshold. Furthermore, on the educational requirements, we saw that mostly higher academic education qualifications were required at bachelor and master level. VET is in lower demand, while interestingly enough, we saw that training from specific bodies, a notable example is the Global Wind Organization for occupational profiles addressing offshore wind, is often mentioned. Now, going on the other side, on the skill supply, we identified relevant educational and training programs and courses. And to do that, we use the marine training platform. There is a very specific data entry form that the platform uses in order to collect information. And you can see on the table what kind of information was collected for each program and course we identified. Overall, we identified 398 programs and courses over a 7-month period, addressing 13 European countries. The distinction between educational programs and training courses was quite balanced. However, on the level of education, we saw that the majority were higher education programs and mostly at the master level. Only 7% were short cycle tertiary programs and courses, and a very marginal number were post-secondary non-tertiary programs and courses. 6% of the programs and courses we identified were provided in English, where, interestingly enough, 41% were provided only in the national language of the country where each program, the respective program and course was offered. Almost half of the programs were on-site programs, 29% were online, while 22% of the programs followed a blended format. The majority, 86% of the programs, provided qualifications that are applicable to all different subsectors. However, given that the offshore wind accounts for the majority of the installed capacity in Europe, 40% of the programs emphasized specifically on offshore wind. With regard to the duration, it was typical for higher education programs, whereas for courses, these varied per format, per thematic focus and per expected learning outcomes. With regard to the cost of the programs, this also varied from free to attend programs and courses to programs and courses that tuitions were amounted to thousands of euros. And there was also, in many cases, a differentiation between European and non-European attendees. And the hosting institutions varied. We had universities, academies, vet providers, research institutions, consulting companies, but also service providers, key industrial actors, and their associations. The results that we got, you can see that the large majority of programs were addressing renewable energy engineers, and you can see also different specializations of engineers being addressed by the different programs. Lower was the percent addressing of programs addressing technicians, while very notably there was a high number of programs addressing some supporting occupational profiles as the emergency response worker. Sorry. I'm sorry, something happened and I cannot move forward with my presentation.
Maybe try stopping sharing your screen and resharing. Maybe that will be the best.
Yep. How about now?
Yes, now I see the next slide.
Okay, so now combining the findings of the skills supply with the findings of the skills demand, we came up with these observations. We saw that despite being top priorities for the industry, education and training programs and courses targeting project managers and offshore renewable energy technicians were low in number. There was also a significant lack of vet programs and courses, since most of the programs and courses were offered at the master level, indicating that ORE-related qualifications and competencies are being provided as a specialization. Compared to the past, because we did the same exercise 4 years ago, when we saw that ORE-related qualifications and competencies were integrated in the broader spectrum of programs and courses addressing renewable in general. Now we saw that there is a higher number of programs and courses that are dedicated to offshore renewable energy. For engineers, we saw that the alignment of skills demand and supply is more balanced, with some tasks, however, being carried out by different types of engineers, and undergraduate backgrounds shape to some extent deployment decisions given the interrelated functions that need to be completed by the employee. Most of the identified programs and courses proved to be addressing occupational profiles with a more supporting role in the ORE value chain compared to the demand, where we saw that the industry requires person profiles that are core for the ORE value chain. The education and training providers should place greater emphasis on equipping graduates with quality assessment, quality control, and quality health, safety, environment-related skills, as well as soft skills. Proficiency using specialized software requested by the industry can be better facilitated by education and training providers, for example, through the acquisition of educational licenses, and it will be of real added value if additional industrial associations invest in providing targeted training, either via their own resources or in partnership with key institutions. We saw that those programs and courses are often well respected and widely recognized among different European countries, which is usually an issue. Now, the skills foresight, This is work that is ongoing. The first step was we had a targeted workshop in the last annual event of Wind Europe that was held in Bilbao at in March, where we, based on the desk research, we provided the experts with a list of trends and paradigm shifters that are impacting the sector, and we were able to validate those trends and receive additional input that we processed, and we came up with a final list. And now we are at the point where we have issued a Delphi survey targeting experts in the sector. We will have 2 rounds of the Delphi survey. The first round is still ongoing and is expected to be completed within the start of October. There will be a relevant report addressing the skill foresight that we expect to deliver at the end of October. So from the work from the desk research and from the validation of the trends in the Bilbao workshop, first of all, we consider 3 different time horizons. So a short one, 2030, a medium one, 2040, and a long one, 2050. And we categorized the identified trends into 3 categories: technological advancements, policy changes, and market dynamics. For technological advancements, we identified those 9 trends: integration of smart grid technologies and sensors, advanced energy storage systems, higher levels of automation, and the greater use and exploitation of advanced robotics, the use of digital twins, a very hot topic, the use of AI, including generative AI, IoT and quantum computing, big data, the use of big data and the different analytics, immersive technologies, mostly VR and AR, 3D printing for covering different requirements of the related supply chain, but also sustainable and smart materials, including also recycling materials. On policy changes, we identified 4 trends. The first relates to the reform of relevant regulatory frameworks, setting new targets, requirements, and processes. The adoption of maritime spatial plans. Last year, we had the adoption of the MSP in Spain. So we had investments in the sector starting. We also expect the other Mediterranean countries to finalize and adopt their MSPs, and this will also open the market for new investments in the Mediterranean region. So there will be a greater demand for workforce to support those developments. The introduction of new or the update of existing applicable standards, and as I said, the EU-wide accreditation of training skills. This is an issue that we want to resolve, and resolving that will also impact changes on mobility of the workforce. And last category, market dynamics, where we include new structures. So for example, floating wind turbines or different structures that are being used. Scale and efficiency increases. So for example, in offshore wind, different developments on the wind turbines, on the technology of wind turbines, but also security of energy supplies through the adoption of different storage systems. Hybrid projects combining different order technologies together. New financing mechanisms in order to support new projects, and also the energy price that also has an effect on developments. So what insights we are trying to get now through this Delphi survey? First, to see if we have missed something in the list, if there is another recommendation that we get. And then we want to see what will be the impact that those trends will impose on the sector. So what will be the order of the scale, and when this impact is expected to be imposed in the short, medium, or long term. What will be the implications on current skills and on employment rates? Which occupation profiles will be mostly affected, and what new hard and soft skills will be required, if there would be new occupational profiles that may emerge, and what role those will play within the value chain of their sector, and also come up with recommendations from the experts on effective methods that can be utilized in order to effectively and efficiently provide the new skill sets to students and attendees of new programs. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. I tried to summarize on those slides a lot of information, but as I said, if you are interested to learn more about the report will be published at the end of the month, so we can provide through the different channels some links to access it. And now I will be very happy to hear your views, to answer any questions that you may have, or discuss an issue that you think you want to raise.
Lefteris, that was really insightful, and it's fascinating to see just quite how varied, even in the things you picked up, quite how varied the scope of the skills is, the scope of the roles that's involved. It really, I mean, it covers everything somewhere in
Indeed.
there. So I would like to invite people, if they have a question, please put your question in the Q&A, and we'll start with those. While you're thinking about your questions, I have a list of questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So first of all, because I don't know how familiar everyone is with the ESCO database, do you have an idea of kind of how widely and who uses that database, and why it's so important to have the correct things reflected in there?
Yeah. The ESCO database is a very useful tool in order to perform this kind of analysis, because it provides a categorization that is accepted Europe-wide. So it provides a uniform tool that you can base your analysis. I know CEDEFOP is using that in order to provide all kind of reporting that they do and the different insights that they provide on different sectors. Of course, the database, as I said, is being updated on a regular basis. So in the previous project, the predecessor of FLORES, the MAGE project, we also provided a number of recommendations on new occupational profiles that should be inserted in the database, and the people responsible for the update of the database actually welcomed those recommendations and included those occupational profiles in the last update. So this is an ongoing work, and as I said, and this correlates with the skills foresight analysis. If on 5 years, 10 years time, we'll have new occupational profiles emerging because of the introduction of new technologies, because of new trends, it's very logical to have this database up to date, because not only the occupational profiles change, but also the skills related to each occupational profiles change, the knowledge requirements, the qualification change. So having something up to date will better inform also the analysis that a lot of us are doing on that regard.
Thank you. And as you say, I think it's very good to have it European-wide agreed, because trying to get that,
Exactly.
an understanding of what's needed if you have different terminologies and understandings of a role is very difficult.
And it allows to compare works that are being done in different contexts, because it provides a common basis. So this is very important when you want to better understand what kind of methods are being used in order to assess skills development and perform overall skills intelligence analysis.
Great. Okay, we have a question in the Q&A, and it actually reflects one of my own, so I'm definitely going to go ahead and ask that. So Dorita Kolbuk, sorry if I've mispronounced, but she asks, will the report have a breakdown of the most needed jobs profiles per country?
That's a very good question. The report is a bit more strategic, so we try to see at a European-wide level what is being requested. So it will not include insights at a national scale. However, we have the data set, so we can provide some insights if needed. Actually, in the previous project that I said, in the MAGE project, where we had a similar report, there because also the scale of the project was greater, so we had more resources there. We were able to provide such insights on at national level, so a breakdown at the different European countries. Now, because as I said, it's a smaller project and more targeted project at the strategic level, we provided insights that are Europe-wide.
That's great. But if the data is available, then that might be of interest for people, because as you were saying, you're looking at different sea basins as well in the project, and I think you could see naturally in the information that was provided that both for job vacancies but also for training, the Baltic and North Sea were much more heavily in there, some of the Atlantic, and there was a lot less available in the Mediterranean. So because they're less advanced, maybe there will be the different requirements to reflect the maturity.
Exactly. And then, as I said, in the trends on the policy changes, if we have the adoption of the MSPs, so we will have new investments in the Mediterranean region, so new demand for workers. I guess we'll also see a lot of mobility of skilled workers from established sites, from established farms, to provide the insights and experience on the new sites, but also provide some guidance on new employees that will be engaged from the different countries where investments will start. So this will also be something that I guess we will be experiencing in the next few years.
Thanks. So I have a question from Sheila, and she says, if I understood correctly, you found an experience requirement of 2 to 3 years as a minimum threshold. But how would someone who has just finished their studies get to that 0 to 2 years requirement of experience? And do you reflect on that in your report at all?
Yeah, that's a very valid point. And I have been hearing a lot of that because it's very logical what Sheila said, that you can require 2 to 3 years minimum threshold. So how can a new entry postgraduate enter the market? So our recommendation on that is to offer for companies, for the different actors in the industry, to offer a lot of more opportunities for apprentices and internships that can allow first the students to get the practical hands-on experience on the actual operations, so the actual work that needs to be done, but also create employment opportunities so that, for example, the interns can then advance and join the company as a permanent staff, and thus that to some extent can address this issue, because I know we also found it from the analysis that it's an issue. It does not allow graduates that have recently concluded their studies to enter the market and provide the value that they have on the industry. So this is a very strong recommendation that we'll be making, and we make sure to highlight in our report.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if someone's got all the dedicated training that's really being asked for in industry, and they've gone through this whole master's program, and then they don't have the experience, they're wasting their training essentially if they can't get a job. So, and then Sheila has another question, which is actually very aligned to one of my own. So, I noted that stakeholder engagement and management was one of the things that was really identified as important. And Sheila asks, what type of studies would someone have to do to become a stakeholder manager? And I had a similar point in that there was a lot of engineer roles and a lot of technical roles listed. Whereas I don't necessarily see those doing a stakeholder management type activity, and a typical engineering training would probably not cover the skills you would need to engage in stakeholder management. So there was a mismatch there.
Yeah, definitely. And this is also a very valid question. Thank you for raising that. It is important, besides purely technical skills, to also because the work in the sector is also very complex, so it requires to employ interdisciplinary approaches, so work with different kind of experts to produce an outcome that will be of high quality and meet the requirements of the industry. So stakeholder management, so engaging and cooperating with the stakeholders, the industry finds it as very, very important for them, so that they can ensure that all stakeholders join forces and share any data and insights that they have in order to reach the common goal. This is something that it's not very easy for an education and training provider to offer. It's something that I guess needs to change within the perspective of how programs are being shaped and what kind of qualities they provide. To some extent, there are some tools I mentioned, like we found in many job vacancies a mention of Atlassian Suite, which is a collaboration platform. So mostly this is being addressed by being proficient to use tools that enable collaboration between the different stakeholders. So leveraging upon IT skills, but also including like how you manage a community of stakeholders through some advanced analytical tools. So this is mostly how we understood from the analysis that this is being addressed today.
Yeah. So Sheila's actually building on that then and saying the soft skills are not necessarily being addressed in the courses. It's, it's still leveraging on very technical skills. How could perhaps course leaders ensure that they also include these softer skills that are quite clearly in strong demand?
Yeah.
Do you have?
Yeah, that's a, I will say, a long-lasting issue, because from one side we have education and training providers not putting still much emphasis on soft skills, although this is gradually changing over the years. But still, we have some gaps to cover. And on the other side, the industry being a lot of in much need of soft skills. So they, as I said, they regard it as equally important to hard skills. So I guess a way to address a little bit the soft skills will be for the education and training providers to offer within the course of their programs opportunities for group exercises, for students going out of to companies to perform different or support different projects, so that they can offer opportunities that can allow to develop soft skills. But there is also, I think, many experts now that are experts that are being hired for providing soft skills to employees. So also the companies are trying to invest by getting such experts to enhance the soft skills of their employees, because they know they're aware that education training providers still cannot meet this requirement to a good extent.
Yeah, indeed. So if you can't guarantee that someone will arrive to you with it, then you give them some lifelong learning training to ensure they get it at the employers. I think that's definitely a good balance. There was just a question from an anonymous attendee, so I don't know who it is, but they were just saying, could you repeat which tool you mentioned for stakeholder management? Maybe you could write it in the chat or give us a link or something.
Sure. It's we found in many job vacancies that we reviewed. The industry requesting, it's called Atlassian Suite. I can write it down possibly.
Thank you. If everyone can see that, I will put it to make sure that everyone can see it. Okay, perfect. And then I was actually wondering, on a more practical basis, I mean, you've clearly looked at a huge amount of information, both on the training offers and the vacancies. But how easy was it to actually gather the required level of detail that you needed for this analysis? Like, how comprehensive is the information that's out there?
Yeah, this is not very easy. And to be honest, that's why we try to have a very straightforward approach and use these reference layers so that it's more easy to structure the data collection and also the reporting. I would say that it requires a lot of time and effort to collect all this data, both from the demand side, also from the supply side. Tools like the skills of others that I mentioned, you can register, you can they deploy a big data approach, so you can find different kind of data on the different sectors there. So this is a good starting point. So you can use the resources of the European Commission of ZDFOP so as to get some first insights. But then collecting data, I guess that if you have the tools like the programs organized, the structure, the methodology, then it's more easy, it's more timely, efficient to perform this analysis, because the added value here is that to repeat this kind of analysis, as I said, we did the same exercise 4 years ago, and now that we repeated the exercise with, of course, the necessary adjustments, we saw that the situation has changed, because also the sector that we address, the offshore renewable energy sector, is quite dynamic. So we have over 4 years many developments, many new things, but the value lies for repeating the analysis, and this is why within the Pact for Skills, one of the working groups is the Skills Observatory, because this is important. You need to have the resources to repeat the exercise and provide the new recommendations to both the industry players from the one side and the education and training providers on the other side, because the aim at the end of the day is to bridge this gap of the skill demand and supply, so that the industry gets a very skilled workforce that can support the sector developing fast and reaching the targets that have been set in the relevant policies.
Yeah, and kind of linked to that, Sheila asked, actually, just in an overall context, is there a big difference between demand and supply in Europe? So are there enough people to do all of the jobs that are actually out there?
Yeah.
What's your idea on that?
For answering that, you need to break down a little bit your perspective per occupational profiles, because the answer is different based on which kind of occupational profiles you address. For example, as I said in the slides in my talk, for engineers, we see that there is a more balanced mismatch between skills, demand, supply. So engineers are in higher demand, but on the other side, we have a lot of programs addressing engineers. One of the gaps that we found was about VET programs, so addressing technicians. That although technicians like offshore renewable energy technicians or different kind of technicians are in demand, there are not many VET programs that are being offered. And this is something that we also found out in the previous project. So we see that this has been sustained over the 4 years' times, and this cannot change. That means that there should be initiatives, there should be some resources facilitating the introduction of such programs in the different European countries, because there is a lot of occupational profiles that make use of those programs, and the industry needs of them, and they will provide good value to the industry and to the targets that the industry actors set.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess that in the end, the final report coming out of all this study, I mean, it will be hugely important to make sure that indeed reaches then the industry and the providers. Will that be a publicly available report that's coming out?
This will be publicly available, so it will be published in the FLORES website, so we can provide the link. But you can also replicate it in other media, like communication channels that are deployed, but also on the social media accounts of the project. You'll be able, I guess, to easily find the report. Otherwise, feel free to drop me a message. I can send you or provide you the link. I'll be very happy to do so. And also, at a later point, if there is any question, if there is any discussion that we would like to have, and in follow-up point, I will be very happy to get it to contact me and discuss further.
Thank you. Yeah, it'll be definitely very interesting, and I'm sure we can share with anyone who's interested once that's available.
Yep.
And I see a last question from Sheila, so I'm just going to go with that one, and then I think we'll wrap it up. She was just saying that she thinks technicians are also in short supply in academia and in other parts. So perhaps there is something more that we need to be doing, not just in looking at what's available in the training, but maybe people are not realizing that these jobs are available. Perhaps, the career development is not clear to people in the first place.
Yeah, very good point. And as I said, one of the cornerstones of FLORES is also to promote careers in the sector. So this spreads along all different kind of careers. So the aim also will be to showcase what career opportunities lie for technicians, for different technical workers. Furthermore, and I know from international level here in Greece, there are also very important if chambers of commerce and industry, if they also provide either programs, but also showcase these opportunities because they are very well in line with the industry, so they know what the members, the companies need. So it's we found it very valuable that such players, like such structures, can also showcase the opportunities that lie there. Because, and as I said, there is a sector that is fastly developing. So also in the Mediterranean region, for example, we have strong demand for new workers in all different levels of the value chain of the sector.
Yeah, indeed. And just before everyone goes, I will put the link to the project in the chat as well, so everyone can find out all the information there. But for now, I will first of all say thank you very much. There's been a really great discussion and really interesting to hear more in detail about the work you've been doing. And then for the audience, I'm just going to share that next month we're not having a third Thursday science webinar because on the week after we're having the launch of our flagship new document, Navigating the Future 6, which talks about kind of where marine science is going next. So there's some discussion on training there as well. So it comes up everywhere. But that event will be held both in person, but it will also be live streamed. So if you're interested, please go to our website. The link is at the bottom there and you can find out more. But for now, thank you very much, Lefteris, for joining us. It's been great to have you here and have a great discussion. The recording will be available online shortly, and we look forward to seeing the report soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.